Welcome to the Cheating Secrets channel. We hope you enjoy today's story.
The movie Chick, which my wife Katie and I watched for the last 2 hours, has finally ended. I've had too much beer, but she seemed to enjoy it when I sat next to her. I just don't understand this, John. How could a man be so stubborn that he couldn't understand and forgive his own wife for such a small mistake? What the hell are you talking about? It wasn't a small thing. For God's sake, she betrayed him. Any woman who cheats on her husband deserves any punishment she gets. It's unacceptable in any situation. That's awful, damn it, and cruel, John. A loving husband would be more flexible. He would understand that her making a mistake doesn't mean she doesn't love him. It means her feelings for him are less than they should be. A woman who cheats on her husband basically says she doesn't respect him and doesn't feel guilty, which belittles him, even if it doesn't show on his face. In her eyes, he's still less of a man. What if that's not her intention? It doesn't matter what her intentions are, Katie. What matters is what she did, and the outcome is inevitable. That's just old-fashioned, John. I can't believe you're so backward. All these things can be discussed and resolved. There's never a need for violence from the husband's side. That applies only if the wife confesses to cheating before he finds out. If he learns about it before she tells him, she's doomed. If she denies it after being caught, she should be burned at the stake. Most men don't pay attention to what their wives do, so devilishly few of them ever get caught. It's a stupid discussion. I'm going to get ready for bed. I'll be there in a few minutes. Katie and I spent most of the day at flea markets and yard sales. I didn't mind dragging her along every weekend because usually I could find something to watch while she dug through the stuff. She collected old ceramic coasters. The uglier they looked, the more she wanted them. We both worked and saved as much money as we could for our first home. Of course, it had to have a big kitchen with enough wall space, at least, for 100 ceramic tiles. We've only been married for 6 years, but we've been together for a few years before that. She was short and a little chubby. I often teased her about having a nursery figure. We planned to have several children after moving into our new home. Right now, all we needed was enough money for an 80% discount. I was finishing an article in a magazine, but I couldn't shake off thoughts about our recent conversation. Katie seemed too defensive about the topic of infidelity. It was never discussed before. In fact, I never even considered such a possibility, but now she caught my attention. Most guys I work with keep their wives on a tight leash. Katie, on the other hand, is completely independent. I've always trusted her and never doubted her loyalty. I never thought about cheating on her and hoped she felt the same way about me. Anyway, I decided that digging a little wouldn't hurt. I was sure I wouldn't find anything, but to be sure, I'd look. I worked from 6 to 4, and Katie worked from 8 to 6. That gave me a little time to figure things out. The next day, I dashed home from work around 9 and stepped into the apartment. I didn't know what I was looking for, but it was starting to seem amusing. Something like a secret hunt for a mystery. I couldn't start because I felt a strange sweet smell as soon as I walked in. It was air freshener. A lot of air freshener. I wandered around, sniffing, trying to figure out what was going on. Eventually, I found myself by the fireplace in the living room. Katie must have been burning something in the fireplace and was trying to mask the smell of smoke with the air freshener in the room. The fireplace floor was clean and looked as if it had just been swept. The blacksoot on the bricks was still damp. If she burned something and removed it, there had to be remnants somewhere. I thought if she were clever, she would have taken it to work with her. She wasn't clever. In the cardboard box in the garage was a plastic liner from a wastebasket. I spread newspapers on the kitchen table and emptied the contents of the packet. Mostly it was just black ash, but there were small bits of paper and a few photographs scattered throughout. I'd like to say I managed to reconstruct some scraps into something readable, but that was not meant to be. All I really knew was that she decided it was important to burn some old papers and photographs so I wouldn't find out about them. It meant something was happening that she didn't want me to know about. After our conversation the previous night, I started to worry. My whole life had been devoted to Katie and the future we were building together. Now it seemed I had been a little careless in observing what was going on around me. She wasn't completely honest with me in some aspects of her life. I knew very little about her work or her work colleagues. I never thought I needed to know. Well, now she had caught my attention. On my way to work, I stopped by Radio Shack and bought 3 digital tape recorders with voice activation and some extra batteries. The mobile communication office was more than happy to provide me with call logs for the past 3 months from both of our wireless devices. I explained that the National Security Agency was conducting an audit, and we needed the information for clearance checks. I requested both phones to avoid raising suspicions, but after checking mine, I tossed it into the shredder at work. For the first time since getting married, I began to have negative thoughts about my wife. I didn't like it, but I simply assumed. I got home a few hours before Katie and managed to set up the tape recorders, one in the living room, one in the bedroom, and one in the kitchen. I had to set up the kitchen one not to record the fridge noises. I turned them all on every morning before leaving for work. Dinner was ready by the time Katie got home. "Hi, darling. I hope chili will do?" "It's not bad if it's not too spicy." About halfway through dinner, I began probing. "Hey." When I got home, the house reeked. It was something between burnt cheese and scorched rubber. "What the hell did you burn in the fireplace before going to work?" They caught her. She tried to hide the fact that she burned things, but now it was out in the open. "Oh, nothing special. Just some old papers and school stuff." "Why the hell did you burn them? Why didn't you just toss them in the trash or shred them?" "By the way you cleaned the fireplace, it looked like you were preparing for a crime scene cleanup." "I don't know. Why is this such a big deal?" "Katie, I find it very strange that you woke up this morning, got ready for work, burned a pile of old school papers, and then cleaned it all up as if it never happened. Are you blaming me for being suspicious? Also, it didn't look like schoolwork. It looked like letters and photographs. What the hell did you do? Did you dig through the trash and dig out this garbage just to accuse me of something?" "Yes." "Fuck off, asshole. You can sleep on the couch. I'm going to take a shower, go to bed, and read. You can sleep on the couch." Katie had never spoken to me like this before, but on the other hand, I had never accused her of anything before. A few seconds later, the doorbell rang. I grabbed her cell phone from the nightstand and quickly copied all the numbers from her contacts, all outgoing calls, all incoming calls, and all messages. It took only a few minutes to scan her address book into a computer file. I wouldn't mind sleeping on the couch, but the living room still smelled of burnt paper and ashes. At work, I had plenty of free time, so I took a day off. I turned on the tape recorders and left the house at the usual time, but instead of going to work, I headed to Denny's. A little later, around 8, I returned home. Katie had made one phone call. "I have some issues at home." "No, nothing like that. He just suspects that something is going on but has no idea what exactly. He's just getting irritated and really starting to get on my nerves." Okay. I think I can handle it. Maybe on Friday. See you." I had no idea who the mysterious person on the other end of the line was, but I thought I would find out soon. I wondered what was supposed to happen on Friday. I spent the morning at the library, going through her phone calls. I could have done it at home, but the reverse phone directory at the library was better than online and faster. Of course, for cell phones, it was worth nothing. I was able to eliminate most numbers because I knew them or could match them to her address book. One number stood out, TR's. It was on her speed dial and in her address book. The address book also listed a landline number, which turned out to belong to Tom Rollins. Katie worked with him at Gen X, and I had actually met him a few times. The last time was about 10 days ago at a corporate event. He and Katie were close all evening, and I remembered not liking it. He was married to a cute little brunette who also didn't seem to have fun at the party. I compiled a list of all the times Katie called Tom in the last 3 months and all the times he called her. There wasn't a single text message from him. I assumed Katie called Tom this morning. There were a lot of phone calls, but it was just an assumption. After making a couple of copies of the phone list, I went to Tom Rollins' house. I figured I had nothing to lose, so I knocked on the door. "John Connor? I was hoping to talk to you. Come in." Damn, this was an unexpected surprise. "I'm sorry. I'm in an awkward position here. I know you're married to Tom, but I don't think we've ever met." "My name is Sylvia, but everyone calls me Sly." She extended her hand, and I shook it out of courtesy. "John, the only thing I need to talk to you about is the affair your wife and my husband are having." Well, she hit me straight in the face again. I didn't expect this either. Looks like she knows a hell of a lot more than I do. "I'm filing for divorce from Tom, and I'm naming Katie in the lawsuit. I have a lot of supporting documents, and I'd like to collaborate on a few issues." "Sylvia, I have no intention of causing you trouble over this, but I only found out about it yesterday, to be honest. I don't have any information that could help you. All I have right now are a few phone logs." Let me take a look. She was genuinely concerned about the little I had. I handed her one of my copies and told her she could keep it. Sylvia started examining the phone logs like an IRS auditor. She made notes in the logs and cross-referenced the information with the documents she had. She grinned, and I thought she might burst into laughter at any moment. The more she worked on it, the more excited she seemed. Finally, I intervened. Is there any information you can share with me? Of course. I'm willing to give you everything I have. Here, this is what I've gathered over the past 2 weeks. She pushed 3 motel receipts across the table to me. They listed the date, time, and, of course, the motel's name. All 3 were different. All 3 were paid in cash. The idiot doesn't realize I go through all his pockets every night after he goes to bed. I take the receipts, and he doesn't even notice they're gone. He lives in his own world. I'm invisible to him. As we talked, she seemed to grow more and more enraged. I started to worry a little about my safety. I hoped she wouldn't get upset with me because I was Katie's husband. Veins bulged on her neck like a television wrestler. I don't think I've ever seen a woman so furious. She made copies of the motel receipts for me and handed them over. I have many more receipts and other things if you need them. Oh, wait, let me show you something special. She left and soon returned with a zippered bag. Inside were a pair of women's panties. Do you recognize these? Of course. In the bag was a pair of gray-green bikini panties that belonged to a set my wife owned. I pulled these from Tom's coat pocket on the night of the last corporate party. He went crazy, rummaging through the closet and the car, trying to find them, but didn't dare say a word to me. May I borrow them? Only if you promise to return them. Deal. For the next hour, Sylvia Rollins rambled and raved like a madwoman. I tried to leave several times but couldn't. Finally, she said she needed to lie down for a bit, giving me the chance to escape. She mentioned that Tom hated condoms and refused to use them. When Katie returned home, dinner was ready. I was starving because I skipped lunch. My wife was calm as a cucumber. I understood why I hadn't noticed anything before. I cleared the dishes and served a couple of slices of key lime pie, her favorite, along with some coffee. It was nice and quiet. Katie, can I ask you a question without you getting mad at me? Are you still working on the fireplace? No, it's something else. Okay, go ahead. Where are the panties that go with this bra? I held up the gray-green push-up bra that matched the panties Sylvia gave me. I don't know. Probably in my dresser. Why the hell are you rummaging through my underwear? Are you turning into some kind of pervert? Could you go get the panties for me? Katie just sat there, staring at her pie. She couldn't reach the panties, and she knew it. I could tell she was starting to get angry. You know, I just remembered. I threw them away last week. The elastic band came off, and I just didn't feel like fixing them. They were less than a month old, Katie. You bought them at the mall just 3 weeks ago. How did they wear out so quickly? Now she was starting to boil. Her lower lip was trembling. The veins on her neck bulged. Her fists were clenched tightly. Damn, it was like I was back with Sylvia. All right, Mr. Know-It-All, are you going to tell me what happened to my panties? Last week, when we were getting ready to go to your company party, I watched you getting dressed. You put on that bra and the panties that come with it. I remember thinking how great you looked. When we got back from the party, you undressed in the bathroom, but I noticed you weren't wearing any panties. How did you manage to lose your underwear from the time we left home until we got back? I think you're mistaken. They were indeed on me when I came back home. You just didn't see them. All right, then tell me, how did they end up in Tom Rollins' coat pocket? I lifted the bag with the panties. Where the hell did you get them? From Tom's wife, Sylvia. Why are you asking? You son of a bitch. Stop sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. There's nothing going on between me and Tom. I have no idea how his wife got my panties. Do you have any other nonsense you want to throw at me? There's something else, Katie. Here's a little questionnaire I put together. I'd like you to fill it out. All I want to know is the date and place where you met with other men outside of our marriage. Here, I'll start it off for you. As Katie watched, I entered the name of the motel and the date they last met with Tom. In the next line, I simply entered Tom's name and the name of the motel. In the next line, I just put the date. Fill this out for me, Katie, and then we'll talk more. She knew the information I entered into the form was correct. Katie just stared at the paper, not moving or saying anything. Oh yes, one more thing, I said, raising my voice. I'm a little pissed that you and Tom couldn't bother to use any protection. It's disgusting that you cheated on me, but even worse that you didn't even have the decency to use a condom. You had no qualms about bringing home some disease to me. That's truly disgusting. Did any of them bother to protect themselves, or was it just Tom who didn't? No, damn it. It was just Tom. He was the only one who didn't use anything. The room fell silent. I hadn't expected such an outburst, and I don't think Katie realized what she was saying until it was too late. In her anger, she inadvertently let slip that she had affairs with other guys besides Tom. I just assumed. With a wave of her hand, Katie swept half the table and dashed out of the kitchen. I heard the bedroom door close, followed by quiet sobbing. I drove to a motel for the night. I called in sick at work, saying I wouldn't be in for a few days. I returned Sylvia's panties as promised. This time she didn't say anything and seemed very subdued. I didn't push and left as soon as I could. I found a small motel that rented rooms with mini kitchens by the week. Katie wasn't home when I passed by, so I dashed inside and grabbed as many of my things as I could. I bought some silverware, plates, and a few pants. It took me about an hour to set up my new kingdom. I couldn't shake the thought that just a week ago, I had no idea something like this would happen. As I started walking back to my car, I noticed Tom Rollins about 5 rooms down from me. He was carrying bags and boxes into the room. I had to chuckle to myself. The son of a bitch was doing the same thing I was. Either Sylvia kicked him out or he got tired of it and left. It didn't matter, but the results were the same. Around that time, Katie's car pulled up. She didn't see me and didn't notice my car. They talked for a bit, then went into the room. About 10 minutes later, I figured it was time to go home and get the rest of my stuff. I was sure they'd be occupied for at least an hour. I was packing everything I could into the Honda. I grabbed the computer, cameras, a portable TV, all my CDs, and even took my George Foreman grill. I was disconnecting the answering machine when there was a knock on the door. Mr. Connor? 2 policemen stood at the door. Yes? You're Mr. Katie Connor's husband? Yes. Is she okay? What's happened? I'm sorry to have to tell you this, sir, but your wife is dead. No, you must be mistaken. I saw her just 2 hours ago, and she was fine. Where did you see her? She was at the Desk Motel on Penn Avenue with Tom Rollins. Mr. Rollins is dead too. How? They were shot. Listen, I've been here for 2 hours, and I don't even have a gun. It can't be. Easy there, Mr. Connor. Don't take it too hard. We have a shooter. Mrs. Rollins shot them both as they were leaving his room. She emptied her gun into them, then called 911. When we arrived, she was sitting by the door of the room, crying. Will you be okay? Or do you need someone to stay with you? No, I'll be fine. Thank you. Any of you guys interested in buying a stand? A week ago, everything was fine. What the hell happened? I just assumed.
Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments. And we'll see you on the Cheating Secrets channel.